What happened in qualifying
for the Spanish Grand Prix?
Goodness gracious me, we've got a lot to talk about. And before we get into all of that, I don't know why we're going really serious with the start of this podcast. Let's get cozy again. But before we dive into all things Barcelona, Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, need to, of course, shout out the P1 Live Show Delusion Tour tickets that are now on general sale right now. If you wanted a ticket in Amsterdam, I'm really sorry, but they are sold out, gone, done and dusted. But we still have tickets in the US, in Canada, as well as Ireland, England and Scotland. So go and check out the cities we're coming to. I'm not going to read it out every single time, but you know the P1 Live Show Delusion Tour is here and we're ready to bring a show to near where you may well be. Right, let's get into qualifying and start with Q1, where the bottom 5 drivers were Hülkenberg, Ocon, Sainz, Colapinto and Tsunoda. I think we know what we're going to talk about here, Tommy.
Yes.
Do you have an... Of course, it's the fact that Hülkenberg, P16, a really shocking performance from Nico Hülkenberg. No, it is, of course, Yuki Tsunoda. P1 Patreon member Thimmer. Let's go straight into the question. How long will Tsunoda get in the Red Bull seat before something has to change? I change my mind every hour as to what's going to happen because we kind of came into this weekend and we said, Red Bull, they might swap him out. They don't have much to lose with trying drivers that might be able to figure out how to drive this car. Yuki Tsunoda is not a bad driver. He's shown that in that Racing Bulls when he had the opportunity at VCARB. And then he was, of course, promoted to Red Bull. And he's had moments of okay. I think that's the only way I can really put it. There's not been like a standout Yuki Tsunoda has arrived, apart from perhaps when he's got within a tenth of Max in practice. And we've gone, maybe this is the weekend. But he is last on the grid. And this is kind of these tracks, right, that will catch out a Yuki Tsunoda that perhaps is struggling in comparison to Max, because just how close qualifying was. It was, he did a 13.3 and it was just over, it was 0.2 to Hülkenberg, which actually in the grand scheme of Spain is pretty big. So it was a disappointing performance. But in terms of the question about the seat, Hadjar, in my mind, is destined to have a go. It's just, when will that be? Will it be 26? Will it be this year? It's hard to tell at the moment.
I think, I can't believe we are in this situation again, because Lawson, of course, P20, those first few races, we said they have to change something. They got Yuki Tsunoda in. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think his best performance, even though he didn't kind of really get the result, was kind of maybe Bahrain or something, really early on, and if not his first race, I think it was actually, and he did all right there, and you kind of thought, okay, he's got potential, now he makes the improvement, and we're now 9 races in, and we've got the same second Red Bull driver in P20 that we were seeing at the start of the year. It's absolutely insane. In terms of the question, I personally think Red Bull will just stick with him now. They just focus on Max and the Drivers' Championship completely, 100%, and they know that that second seat now is a curse. And I think if they're sensible, Hadjar is good enough. I know it's Red Bull, but I think they should see a special talent in Hadjar and know that it's not the right time to put him in. And we had this discussion on the watch-along. I think if Hadjar has a great season, next year, this could age terribly, but might not be so bad because we're having a complete regulation change and we know how much that car has kind of gone in the direction of how Max likes it. And that's what's made it so difficult to drive for every other driver that's gone in that car, because we've seen Sergio Perez, Lawson, and now Yuki Tsunoda just be absolutely dreadful compared to Max in it. So I think Hadjar, if you've got, I think sensible-wise, you don't put him in until next year and then see what he can do.
My counterpoint to that, Tommy, is the fact that we're saying the regulation changes coming in next year. Perhaps the car will be easier to drive. What's to say then Yuki doesn't deserve the shot to try and drive an easier Red Bull? Why does Hadjar, just because there's a slight bit of momentum with him because he's in an easier car to drive, why does he deserve that opportunity, considering what Yuki has done to get this opportunity at Red Bull? So
Formula One isn't fair, and it's all about being in the right place at the right time, sadly. Because...
But I think it's different with Red Bull because they literally have data that they compare because they own both teams. So it's not as if it's a wishy-washy, he's doing well in the Aston or whatever. So from my perspective, and from if I'm trying to think of what Red Bull might be wondering, is of course they want a safeguard for the future. They want a driver that they can absolutely trust in from 26 and beyond. And I guess a way of potentially doing that is to have a like-for-like comparison of Yuki and Isaac in that same car. I'm not saying it's potentially the correct decision, but how do they make an informed one if they don't know if Hadjar would be in exactly the same situation as Tsunoda? Because Tsunoda is a talent, and we've hyped him up. You've hyped him up. You're a Yuki fanboy. But to see him down here just does not make sense. Yeah, it's a difficult situation. I can't believe we are ringing the blooming alarm for the Red Bull second seat once again.
P20 again. This thing, we're right back to square one now, aren't we?
We are. You're wondering, Perez, would he have done a better job? Probably, yeah. Moving away now from Red Bull. P1 Patron member Rightis. Why does Sainz keep having moments like this in comparison to Albon? P18 for Carlos is a shocker. He has had some pretty poor qualifyings, but in terms of the head-to-head, it's 5-4 to Albon now. So, from a on paper perspective, it's not that bad, especially when you think that Carlos has come into the team and is learning a completely different philosophy of car. And Albon is doing a brilliant job as well. Both can exist, where Albon's doing brilliantly and Sainz is having moments where perhaps he's struggling. I mean, the fact that he has had great performances sort of settles the debate of whether or not he can do it at Williams, because I think he can. It's just going to take a bit more time to perhaps get that consistency that he's searching for.
Yeah, Carlos, the difference is just 0.2 in Q1, and those fine margins between teammates can be the massive difference between, a P11 for Alex and Carlos all the way down in P18. And while Carlos is trying to get confidence in that car, and we've seen this weekend that Barcelona is just not a track that Williams really struggling there, and they did last year. But I think you're right in the fact that Carlos really isn't that far away. He's just been the one, unfortunately, that's been on the wrong end of the kind of headline moments where we kind of maybe expected so much of him, so it's a shock to see him down in 18.
Another thing, of course, we need to mention in Q1 is Franco Colapinto, who will start 19th tomorrow. I don't know if there's any investigations by the fact that he was blocking the pit lane, but he had a mechanical issue, so I don't think that would be fair for him to get any kind of penalty. And also for anyone to potentially criticise him. He was doing a decent job, actually, in Q1. I think he was running in around 11th until he had that problem.
Had a Gasly as well.
Was very much, in the Gasly realm of pace. And then was just in the pits and couldn't move. And because we see this sometimes, don't we, where drivers will just wait for the other driver to go out, get a nice healthy gap of 10 to 15 seconds, a little bit of a queue, and then we're sat there going, wait, is Colapinto, is he cooking here? Is he going to sit here for 2 more minutes?
Do a Fernando Alonso at Hungary.
Yeah, Alonso
but for
Hungary.
The whole grid.
Hamilton fans don't listen to that one. But no, it turned out that he had a problem and couldn't pull away, sadly for him. Q1 doesn't usually have so many storylines, but I think another thing to mention is Ocon, who continues this trend of banger and then a stinker and then a banger and then a stinker. In qualifying, P17 after such an amazing Monaco. He loves just a random poor qualifying this year.
Haas didn't really look like... They kind of look like a team that could well be last with the Saubers, but this time it seems that Sauber have a little bit more pace, particularly in one of their rookie drivers, which we'll talk about later, because he made it into Q2.
What a beautiful segue. Q2 we go, where the bottom 5 knocked out in this one were Albon, Bortoleto, Lawson, Stroll and Behrman. I think you have to talk about Bortoleto here. Phenomenal job from him. They are a rocket ship in a straight line, fastest in the speed traps, and he was dropping nice little purple sector ones at points, which just threw me back to the slowest car being fastest in the first sector, Nicholas Latifi Hungarian Grand Prix kind of style. You know what I mean?
Take me back.
What a time that was to be alive. But Bortoleto, P12, missed out by, he was about just over a tenth behind Albon in P11, but I don't think you could ask any more of Bortoleto. It did look like he might well flirt with getting into Q3, but P12, there's been upgrades brought for Sauber. Hulkenberg was excited about the prospect of upgrades coming into Spain, and they have taken a step forward.
They have. I think Bortoleto deserves a huge amount of credit because he's maybe unfairly been slandered, as Frank's going nuts.
Frank
Sorry if you can hear that in the background.
Frank is absolutely not. He's a big Hulk fan.
Yeah, he's a big Hulkenberg fan, clearly. But Bortoleto has done a really solid job this year, and I think it's kind of gone under the radar because he's driving the worst car on the grid. You can only compare him to his teammate, really, in a car like that. And I think he's done a very solid job against a driver that is so well kind of known for his great qualifying. So I think that the fact that Bortoleto has come in as a rookie, and I think people are maybe unfairly just kind of dismissing him, going, oh, well, he's got no points, he's not very good. I saw a lot of people saying when Doohan got replaced, well, get rid of Bortoleto as well, he's rubbish. He's definitely not. He's been doing a great job with what the machinery he has, and I think he's, let's not forget, he's a rookie F3 and F2 champion, just like Oscar Piastri was. So there's definitely talent there.
Apart from that, I think we got Lawson P13, Stroll in a very mediocre 14th position, Behrman, as I mentioned, with those soft tyre, that weird old tyre run at the end, which meant he got nowhere near the other four, and then Albon, I was going to say Williams struggles. It is kind of a struggle for the fact that neither of them made Q3 after, I think, 4 back-to-back double points finishes for the team. So let's head to the big one, Q3. The top 10, Piastri, Norris, Verstappen, Russell, Hamilton, Antonelli, Leclerc, Gasly, Hadjar and Alonso. And I think the biggest thing I have to talk about is that Oscar Piastri on pole by the biggest margin of the year. And if you tuned into our predictions, that is cash money for me, locking in, as I said that it would be the biggest pole margin. We didn't think it was going to be, though, did we? After the first run, where it was 17 thousandths of a second separating the top two drivers. But once again, McLaren looking great, and they won too, which is not something we see all that often this year. No.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but and I probably will be because I'm thinking right on the fly.
Yeah,
but it feels like Australia was the only time we had them there. But
I think so as well, yeah.
It certainly doesn't feel, even if that's not the case, it certainly doesn't feel like we've gone into a qualifying since Australia where it has been pretty much a foregone conclusion of which McLaren's getting pole. It was still a fantastic battle between the two of them, but it didn't feel like we could see a surprise like Max has done before, or an Antonelli, or it's been incredibly close where some people have kind of snuck in and challenged Hamilton or whatever, but this very much felt like it was just from pretty much the start of qualifying which McLaren is getting pole. So technical directive,
and we felt
working well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of P1 pitch, remember PGO stick 1. So the technical directive didn't work, right? Look, I don't think... Well, everyone was... McLaren are going to be nerfed. They are going to be slower. They are not slower. And I think if you're a McLaren team member, you are sleeping very smugly tonight when everybody was saying that they... even Red Bull, right? They said, as long as we get within a victory by Spain, we're in the hunt. And McLaren have not been nerfed in the slightest. And it's amazing to see that they are first and second as well in qualifying, which has tended to be the one where they've struggled a little bit. It's been a bit closer. It genuinely feels like it's not been anywhere near as big as perhaps some people were saying. And, in the Friday practice pod, I was like, 5 millimeters, is that really going to change that much? It's not even put any other teams into the sort of fray. Like Ferrari, they haven't been using flexi wings hardly at all. Perhaps they will gain. Have they, insert bleep here, 5th and 7th and half a second off pole? Yeah, cheers. So realistically, the technical directive did work because what it was doing was changing the flexi wings. If you're talking about the technical directive working in terms of bringing McLaren closer, it didn't.
And it maybe has even done the opposite as well, because that we've never seen McLaren this clear in qualifying. It's normally, we'll get to the race, we'll see what can happen in the race, because the trend this year has been everyone is very close in qualifying, but McLaren have the edge in the race. This time McLaren were able to stretch their legs in qualifying. Maybe just some blind hopium and optimism here that maybe in the race it's a little bit different, but they are looking so quick.
P1 Petro member Captain Obs3420. Will McLaren make sure that we don't get a Spain 2016 Mercedes teammate crash, or will they be completely free to race? They will be completely free to race. Whether that is a case of that's how McLaren go racing, or they have no control over their drivers, we will never know. But what we like to see as fans, right, is that they can race, and I would love to see them race. And from a spectacle, sign me up. And I love how when we spoke about this, I think when it was Hungary last year, and this whole Oscar Lando situation, and we spoke about it from a championship winning side of things. It made more sense for Lando to have won that race if they were trying to catch Max. So I think if you're listening and you hear us talk about this sort of stuff for the rest of the season, don't get confused that yes, we love wheel-to-wheel racing.
We loved
Monza, we loved Oscar going around the outside Lando. It's awesome to watch. But if McLaren want to win a Drivers' World Championship, you stick that hat on and you go, is that the wisest thing to do?
But it kind of doesn't matter now because they are clear.
No, at this stage it doesn't.
At this stage it doesn't, yeah. Because, of course, they can't pick a driver at this point, and that is something that Max Verstappen will just be praying continues throughout the whole season, and they don't get too far ahead, that he can capitalise on the fact that McLaren will basically find it impossible to pick and commit between one of the drivers if this continues. But if they continue like they have today and it carries on throughout the year, they're not going to be troubled, so it will be a case of a straight shoot between the two of them for the championship if they have the pace that they've had today every single Grand Prix. And then the gloves can come off, and that's what I'm excited to see, where McLaren are a very we're all pally team and let's fight together for the Constructors' Championship and for the good of racing, and they really want to be liked. But I can't wait to see how that's going to go when you're going to have two drivers that have the chance to become world champions, the biggest thing you can achieve in motorsport.
And there's also going to be a shift, isn't there, as well in the championship? Like, this is what is considered early stages of the championship. When we get to 6-7 races out, there will be a slight bit more desperation. There'll be a slight bit more I need to go for this move and things like that. And I'm massively intrigued to see how it goes. I completely agree with you, Tommy, and worth clarifying, I want them to race. It's more about when we get to a few races out, can McLaren make a choice, or will they be too close?
Or do they even need to at this rate?
This is the tantalising part of Formula One. Question from Justin Pack. Why didn't Charles go out for a second run in Q3? Another Ferrari strategy blunder? Well, he had no fresh, soft tyres left, so it meant that he could not go for another run in Q3. With the benefit of hindsight, would have liked to have maybe seen Charles go out at the end of qualifying to go for a lap. I understand that perhaps they just wanted to get a lap on the board, but 7th on the grid, out-qualified by Antonelli, by his teammate Hamilton, who did a decent job. The P5 was absolutely on the cards if Leclerc went out at the end rather than doing a lap at the start of the session. So it seemed like a very weird, safe strategy from Ferrari that have got absolutely nothing to protect in the constructors or the drivers. So why would you not send him out at the end? Maybe there's an unknown reason here, but a questionable decision, in my opinion, to send him out so early.
You'd understand it maybe at other tracks like Monaco or something, for example, where that you run the risk of a red flag or something spoiling your lap at the end, or traffic. Very, very strange to do an early banker, because Fernando Alonso did the same, where he put a brilliant lap in quite early on, his only lap, but then of course the conditions improve. That's why they all rush to go out at the end and get the best of the track, because the track rubbers up and grips up and there's more time in the bag. And Fernando's dropped all the way to 10th. despite looking like, oh my God, what a heroic lap he's done.
Yeah, he went P5. We're like, oh my God, Alonso P5.
He was waving to the crowd and cheering.
Went P5, and he ended up 9th. So it was all the flurry of laps at the end that really helped a lot of the drivers improve. So yeah, the little waving to the crowd was awesome to see with Fernando, and he did that final lap with I think 5 minutes left in Q3 and had the track to himself, and he probably went for it. So it's it was a nice moment. Also worth mentioning that Max and George did exactly the same lap time. Probably worth saying that. George, I think, did a brilliant job once again. Right, that is it. Tommy, what are your final thoughts, please?
Get your tickets to the P1 live show while you can, because
didn't have to whisper it this time. Perfect.
You didn't, and they are selling very fast. So make sure you grab them before they go, because like we say, Amsterdam has gone already.
Who doesn't want to see Tom Bellingham in the flesh? I know for a fact there are very few. So there you go. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, chat. We're not live, but in chat, if you are going to watch the watch-alongs on YouTube and Twitch. And of course, we'll have our main race review podcast tomorrow as always, and we will see you tomorrow. Lots of love. Bye.
Goodbye.